Welcome to TimesRecordNews.com football show. Andy Newberry here, Zach Duncan and Jonathan Hull. And what do you know now on the playoff picture?
I know there's a lot of things that are going to be decided this week. Usually for 5A, a lot of times, since it's so long, some stuff's already decided. But for a lot of our smaller districts, they're 3/5 of the way in. And so a few teams that are 3-0 have clinched, but a lot of those teams are right on the verge of clinching. I think we're going to have a lot to decide this week. I don't think there's going to be a lot up for grabs next week unless we have a bunch of upsets. I think this week's going to be the big week to finish some of these districts out on who's in and who's out.
In 5A, we assume Ryder will go win at Braswell.
Yeah.
And but
we assume Ryder will probably lose against Denton Ryan at the end of the year too. So we're putting Ryder at 3-3.
Right. So what does that do for them, assuming they get to 3-3?
If they go to 3-3, really what they need Sherman to lose one of their last two games, whether that be against Old High or Denison.
So Ryder could actually clinch Friday night.
They could clinch Friday night if they beat Braswell and Old High beat Sherman, and I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility.
That is definitely not out of the question.
No, I think that's a game that Old High can go in there and compete. But if that doesn't happen, if Old High doesn't beat Sherman, then the final week of the season, Sherman cannot beat Denison by 6 points or more. They do that, then Ryder's out of the playoffs.
And Ryder's totally locked into that D2 seed now if they do get in. So they had to beat Denton to maybe avoid lead, have a chance still avoiding Lido. Now if they do get in, they're playing the #1 team in 5A.
Yeah, Ryder's schedule is really kind of set as long as if they make the playoffs. It's kind of set. I mean, we know what they're getting the next 3 weeks, and then you're going to deal with Denton Ryan basically to end the season. The number 4 team is the team in the state, and then get a Lido who's I guess what #1, #2 right now.
I believe they're #1. Yeah. So. Not ideal.
No, not ideal at all. But hey,
so what's the Wichita High path?
Wichita, it's extreme.
Braswell would have to max out Ryder in points, so not even Braswell upset. Like the Braswell beat Ryder by 15. So
and then Braswell has to win the last game of the season too against Denton High too to get the 2 wins. I mean, basically Braswell, Old High, and Ryder have to be tied at 2 and 6.
Old High's eliminated.
They're done.
Yeah,
they're done. Hershey plays Argyle Friday night at the stadium, and Hershey played with Sanger and Decatur, but Argyle, you think, is a different beast?
Argyle's a completely different beast, and I think that's been proven over the last few years. They've been in how many straight state title games? They do this over and over and over again, and the program's just so established. Now, that said, Sanger played with Argyle last week.
Yeah, that's what I think the Hershey people take some confidence from, because Hershey was beating Sanger for a decent amount of games.
And there's no, and I think people have done this against Argyle more than once this year. There have been some good starts against Argyle. People have gotten out and jumped on Argyle.
That Ian Sadler team we saw.
No, I don't think, and I mean we could be we could be wrong, but I don't think this is. And we'll see the #2 team in the state. I mean, they're a very good team, probably a top 10 team, but I don't think it's quite up there. I mean, and they could still go play for a title this year, but I don't think they're as good as those teams Graham played. The funny stat about this Hershey Argyle game is the last 3 years, Hershey's won 3 district games, and Argyle has gone to 3 state titles. So there's a 1-to-1 ratio on that. But this game doesn't mean anything for Hershey. Absolutely nothing.
It really doesn't. Essentially,
they had to win that last week against Gainesville.
Yeah, it comes down to Gainesville next week, and Argyle too. Like their quarterback's supposed to be really good. I heard their skill position players aren't as strong as they have been in the past in their past state title teams. But what they do in the trenches is supposed to be very physical, very dominant, and I kind of attribute physical football with Argyle anyway.
To me, this is a good test for Hershey, even though they don't have to win the game or anything. They need to show they can play with them for a decent portion of the game if they want to be ready for that first round of the playoffs.
Yeah,
and they're going to get Abilene Wiley, who's to me right there with our. I mean, those teams are supposed to play.
Last 6 to 10 years, probably a little notch below.
Yeah,
but I think they've beaten them.
Oh yeah, they have, and they played in the state semifinals last year too. So yeah, I mean, this game is a great gauge for Hershey to see where it stands, because they're going to play a team real similar to that in Wiley in 2 weeks. If they do get in and beat Gainesville,
Gainesville's not a given anymore. I mean, Gainesville's been playing people tough. They've been a little bit better. They have a running back that's turning out a lot of yards right now. So that's not a given at the end of the year for Hershey to just go in there and beat Gainesville. Plus, it's on the road. It's in Gainesville.
Yeah.
Graham Vernon.
Graham almost beat Crum, just like Our Park almost beat Crum. Both teams have had, Crum's going to win this district title now, but both teams are there. Vernon's coming off a huge win, 3 overtime. I mean, Vernon had to get that game. If they get that game, I'm not saying they couldn't win one of their last 2 games, but I mean, that was pretty much playoff spot or bust for Vernon. And they had to make a 44-yard field goal. They still blew a lead. You know, they've been blowing late leads and driving Coach Bateman nuts. They still did that. They were up by 11 and then fumbled twice. And but the big thing with Vernon, they forced Bridgeport into 5 short field goals, like 25, 22, 29. Like the defense tightened up, and I think that they're gonna have to do that against Graham, because Graham's offense is gonna be able to move the ball something. You know, Vernon's not gonna be able to just
Vernon
stop.
did that against Hershey too. They would give up, you know, some plays, but then stop them when they had to.
So I think that's gonna. I mean, I still think Graham wins this game. It's at Vernon though, and if Vernon's defense is gonna give him a chance, I guess, and that's all you can ask for.
And Graham's not scared to just run at Vernon over and over and over again, as we saw last week against Crum with how many carries.
Jackson Brockway had 40 carries last week. So
we saw a little boy from Argyle get like 45.
Yeah, we did against Graham. Yeah, and they needed every single one of them. The other district game, IP can, you know, bounce back from a bye week and knock Bridgeport out for good. That means all 4 of those playoff spots would be sealed up, because Bridgeport has a bye that last week. So
3A is kind of where you've hunkered down recently.
Yeah, I was at the Holiday Henrietta game. That was my first time to see Henrietta, and that was it's a sloppy win, but you know, when you make some mistakes, but you still close the game strong and make big plays, you come away with that.
And then Holiday can get in if they beat Millsap? Is that
yeah,
right?
Holiday's going to beat Millsap. Millsap's been getting blown out every game, so Holiday's going to beat Millsap. If Holiday gets in, Nakona also gets in, even if Nakona loses to Henrietta this week, because Nakona had beaten Seaview and Jacksboro, so like they can get in a tie with those guys, but they would have beaten both of them. So really, and then Seaview Jacksboro is pretty much a playing game. Whoever wins is in. Everything's based on Holiday winning to get to 3 wins. I think that's going to happen.
Not jumping into any ties.
Yeah, it can't into any ties. So it looks like all 4 of those spots should be taken for grabs. Seaview Jacksboro, as far as toss-up games go, that might be our biggest toss-up game of the week. Seaview's up on Nakona 16 points in the 4th quarter and just had a bad 4th quarter. They get a goal line stop, and then they safety right afterwards, so that kind of stings. Short field, and then they threw 2 picks that Nakona cashed in for points. So they got outscored 24-0 in the 4th quarter of that one. So I'm interested to see how they respond. I mean, the week before they had a close loss against Holiday. Yeah. They probably feel like they should almost be undefeated in district right now. I mean, they probably feel like we could be 3-0 right now, and now they're 1-2 playing for their playoff.
With Holiday, they feel like if that game is played on turf, artificial turf, and not grass, a wet field by that measure, they'd won that game. So yeah, I mean, and they had Nakona right there on the ropes too. So
yeah, I mean, when you're up 16 at home in the 4th, you feel pretty good about it.
And it's crazy you can feel that way about your district schedule, and then turn around and you might not even make the playoffs.
Yeah. So Henrietta and Nakona's where I'll be. That's interesting only because Henrietta wins, they clinch the district title. Nakona wins, and they'll have a shot. I think they'll have to play really well. If Nakona wins, then that district's kind of chaotic, because you have, you know, 3-1 Holiday, 3-1 Nakona, 3-1 Henrietta. So that could be interesting, but Henrietta can claim their first district title since 2009 if they get that one.
Did you see this coming with Nakona, that they would just battle everybody tooth and nail?
I thought they were going to be better this year. I really did, because their quarterback was coming back. He's played a lot as a sophomore. They had a couple, you know, good basketball player come out, receiver. They're starting 5 sophomores on the line, so I think Coach Kick was really kind of just, who knows how that's going to work out. And they had such an easy non-district schedule, we really didn't even know. Like, every team in our area besides them had at least one game where you're like, okay, even like Petrolia, they beat Lindsay. Okay, well, Petrolia's pretty good. They beat Lindsay. Nakona didn't have that. And so, like, I really didn't know what to expect when district started. I thought they could have got 2nd. I thought they could have got 5th. And obviously they've shown, I mean, they felt like they should have beat Holiday that first week, lost by 5. And if they had beat them, they'd be 3-0 district. So obviously, I think they're a solid team, and they're a lot of young guys too. I think they're going to be pretty good next year.
And Henrietta is not, you know, as explosive as they have been sometimes. You know, West had some big runs last week, so that may be another game Nakona can battle. Think they can battle and stay in and give themselves a chance to win.
The great matchup with this one is, I'm going to write about more later this week, is Nakona's got like 5 receivers with over 250 yards. They spread it out. They got a lot of different guys they like to throw to. Henrietta's secondary may be the best in the area. That was kind of their strength coming back off last year's team. They lost Riley Watson back there, but they got Mason Hansen, and Ben McCreary, and Camden Bennett, who picked off a pass the other day, has 7 now for the year. So that's the big battle. It's like, how does Nakona's, can they pass the ball in Henrietta? Because Holiday's not a passing team, but Holiday, I think they threw in 11 incompletions and 9 of them were deflected. I mean, Henrietta was perfect coverage on Holiday the other day. So that's the big one. An interesting game, I think, Electra Quanah and the 2A, just because that, Electra I think Monday's going to get first, Electra second, but I think Quanah's, trying to look to break in. I think that district's going to come down to the last week with Petrolia and Haskell, the winner of that game, getting in. So that game, that district may play out all 5 weeks, but there's a couple of Monday Petrolia could be fun if Petrolia gets on a roll. That could be a lot of points. So I think there's a couple of fun Class 2A games going on too.
So, well, this is going to decide a lot. We'll know quite a bit.
It sounds like most of the drama's out of it after this week. We shouldn't even show up for the last week.
No, we got to show up.
I think we can already look at the playoffs. We don't have to wait.
There's some big games last week. There's Winthrop Seymour will decide that district title. That district hasn't been as exciting as the other 2A district. And then Graham IP is a game I'm really looking forward to, even though the district title's not on the line. That'll be some intrigue. So
you just want another reason to bust deadline and file your story at 11:30.
Hey, you got
Graham IP's got that written all over it.
It's the 7:30 start and the 3.5-hour game written all over it. So,
well, thanks for joining us. We'll come back next week.